This episode of Yes But Why podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Download your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes But Why podcast. Yeah.
I don't know, like I had a thing early on when I started doing like what I do. I was just like, my dream is to like work on or make something that's like somebody's favorite movie, like the thing they watch when they have like a shitty day, or the thing that they like have to show all their friends. I mean, isn't that why we all, you know, make stuff or do things? We want to make other people happy. And it's just, I think that's just so important that people just honor that about themselves, even when they're busy or even when they're exhausted or even when their work schedule is so difficult. It's just like, I need to take a second to just, you know, do something that's just for me and nobody else.
Yeah, why not? Take care of yourself. Yeah. You got to.
Exactly. It's like, what about I got to take a vacation from my problems every once and again. So that's not the greatest example. Well, I don't know. The older I get, the more I watch that, because that's my family and I've seen that movie like 50 times, and that's always my thing of just like, as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, Bill Murray's so in the right, he's just doing it. And then as the older I get, it's just like, oh, Richard Dreyfuss is really going through heck with this guy. I feel like they're really not cutting him a break.
Wow.
But I don't know. It's one of the million things I love about that. And I've talked about it, even like I've met Frank Oz a couple times now, or been lucky enough to. And I always just pick his brain about like working on a movie like that and having that flip that he has where, you know, it goes from who's the patient and who's the doctor by the end of the film.
The funny thing about that idea is the idea of perspective, like what we see when we're kids, what it, you know, things that seem like totally fine, like I don't understand why you won't let us do this, is like ridiculous and horrifying to an adult, because it's like, no, why are you screaming? What's happening right now? Like, I just taught.
That's the thing.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was talking about that with a friend with John Hughes recently, because obviously he was such a seminal filmmaker, but it's like the older you get, the more you kind of watch, or even like more recent examples, like anytime like I'm with my niece and nephews and they're watching like SpongeBob SquarePants, it goes from like, oh yeah, SpongeBob's like just this fun, carefree guy to like, again, like the Squidward is just like really getting the short end of the stick here in this episode. It's just, I don't know, you learn to like kind of empathize with people who are like struggling more with the carefreeness of the heroes. I guess there are limits to it, and you know how you're supposed to think just empathetically about like how you're interacting with other people as well. But
it's funny, since I've had kids, I've started noticing more like what the message of the movies are.
Oh, like, sure, yeah, like with the underlying theme and all that, yeah.
Yeah, like I'll watch certain things and be like, what is this trying to say, right? Like, what was it? Like, I watched B-Movie. You know B-Movie with Jerry Seinfeld?
Oh, of course I know B-Movie. I love B-Movie. Well, huge B-Movie nerd.
It's available on Netflix in case you want to watch it.
I've watched it a time and many. Look, Mom, I got my grades, all B. It's just so it's just like Seinfeld was literally given $100 million to making an animated Seinfeld episode. It was insane.
Yes, but so the plot of the movie has a lot of, you know, changes. A lot of things happen, moves forward. You're like, oh, this happens. Wow, interesting. And then what's interesting to me, as far as like the larger message, is that you'd think the movie would end after, you know, he gets the bees' freedom and they have the ability to make their own honey, and it's their honey and it's great. And then the movie keeps going and they're like, yeah, but, you know, if you don't if you don't do this, if you don't do your job,
Yeah.
like, and I'm sitting there trying to, because I've watched it 3 or 4 times. My baby likes it a lot, and
I don't have that excuse. I've just watched it 3 or 4 times as a single adult because it's just such a goofy. Again, like it's just such a ridiculous thing. But that's such a good point about the message that they have in that. Is just like everybody. Like it starts the movie like of just like avoiding his like quote unquote purpose, and then realizing, well, everyone does have this purpose. Everyone does have their place in this ecosystem.
Yeah, I guess for me, I had a weird reaction to like, wait, so is it bad that the bees are free? Wait, isn't freedom good? What's happening right now? What are we learning?
Right.
Like, so
why is
like,
the woman leaving her husband for a bee? Like, it's just, there's so many unanswered questions in that movie.
Oh, see that? I was like, no, it makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, they're never gonna. There's no, consummation of this relationship, but probably.
No, that relationship was clearly toxic, but it's also just like she did leave him for a bee. And, like, anytime he's screaming about it, he's just like, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, I mean, you're kind of in the right, but, like, I don't know. Like, clearly there were things going on if your wife was going to leave you for an anthropomorphic bee.
Well, it sounds like all bees are anthropomorphic. So says.
Well, is that not the true lesson? And they're all, either Seinfeld or Matthew Broderick or, now I want to rewatch Bee Movie. It's such a fun. I love that people are still watching Bee Movie because I remember, like, I was just a little too old to go see it in theaters, but I still loved it, and I still, like, unironically love Bee Movie today because it's just so, how did this get made of just this $100 million thing of Seinfeld telling these, like, kind of, day in the life joke / avert how many bee puns can we squeeze into 100 minutes, and I love all of them.
Oh man, I bet you there's a counter on that for sure.
I'm sure somebody has made like a YouTube type video of just like every time they say the word bee, they like count it on screen.
Yeah,
and it's just like just hundreds of thousands.
It's super good though. I really do enjoy it.
It is a cute one, yeah.
It's funny. I didn't watch any kids' movies for a long time in my pretty much my entire 30s because in my mind I imagined I would eventually have kids. Now, clearly it didn't happen until 39, so I could have watched a child's movie. But I was like, I gotta wait because if I watch them now, I'm just gonna be bored when I'm watching them with my kid. So what's hilarious is that now there's like 10 years of kids movies that I haven't seen, and more than that, really. I mean, how many kids movies was I watching in my 20s? But
right.
At the same time,
but there's so many good ones that have come out recently, so it's like you're kind of like. I mean, they're making a lot of like great ones, but then they're like. I remember once I had a conversation with J.D. Plus where I was like, "What's the best film you've seen this year so far?" And he was like, "I think the only film I've seen this year so far is like Frozen 1,000,000 times because he has 2 girls."
Oh yeah,
and I was just like, if you forget about that, it's just like, yeah, you end up seeing these like same movies over and over. Well, I don't know. I guess your kid's not old enough to have like his favorites, right? Like I was talking to Dave Ward. Like I was talking to him about his kid, and like she likes certain movies, but they'll like fast forward through some of the scary parts and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, we watch a lot of. I mean, he's not really attached to anything except for one show, which is called We Bare Bears.
I'm not familiar. Okay.
Oh, it's a Cartoon Network show. It's very great. It's all comedians that do the voices. I don't even know how I found it. It was on Hulu. It's on Hulu and Netflix. Different episodes are on each platform. And it's it's really great. It's about 3 bears and they're brothers and they go through adventures. And it's not a narrative like they're episode to episode, they're not connected. They're essentially like if you watch all of them, you can vaguely know what happened ish. But there's so much open for other adventure that's great. So like sometimes you visit the bears as kids and sometimes you visit them as adults. And as adults they live in San Francisco and they're voiced by comedians. And they have a rival / friend who is a famous YouTube star named Nom Nom that's voiced by Patton Oswalt. Great.
Oh, love it.
Yeah, he's a koala bear. He's super cute. It's great. Okay. And it's a great show. It's got a lot of interesting messages, and hilariously, I actually interviewed the head writer for this podcast because I watched it so much. I saw the guy's name, and then one day I was on Twitter and saw the guy's name again, and it was like he was in a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was like, well,
oh, wow.
I'm 2 degrees from this guy. So I made friends with him. I like Twitter friended him, and then, when he followed me back, I was like, I'm in. And I was like, can I interview you? I watch your show every day. He's like, yeah.
It's like, I would even if I didn't have a job. I mean, it is like, because I've written for Moviemaker Magazine for like 8 years or something. There is something so cool about like getting to like interview these people that make the things you just like unabashedly love, and getting to really like pick their brain and like ask them questions like you don't think they've ever been asked before. And like 99 times out of 100, like people are just so giving and sweet and just are like so open to like talking about like how they got started or like where they get their ideas from. And I don't know, I still love something about that process of like discovering why someone makes something,
Yeah, there is something really great about it. I really do enjoy, that kind of thing. Figuring out the way a person, makes their decisions and the path that they have. If only just because, like, when I do the podcast, I did it. I originally created it for my students as a hope that they would have, be able to see lots of different options in front of them.
Nice.
It wasn't always just, it's hard because like improv, what is that? Like, how do you put that on your resume even? Like, so I wanted to show them like people who have done improv or, even just creative stuff. Like, this is how they did it. This is the path that they took. And maybe somewhere along the line, you could connect to a similar path. Or if it never occurred to you, if you like want to write plays, but you're like, how do I write plays? And it's like, turns out there's a lot of places you can go. And here's 6 people talking about it. Like, oh, okay.
No, yeah, but when I was like starting, I was like desperate for that type of thing of just like wanting to know, like, okay, I know there's this like ridiculous thing I want to do for a living. I just like any way to see people tangibly making a living in one way or another, doing like making movies or like doing something in comedy. I was just always just in awe of, and just like whatever I can do to be in that room to figure out what the secret ingredient is to get to do something like that. And it is such a like special thing to get to pass that on to people and just like show like, no. You don't have to like do the plan B. Like there are ways you can make a career doing this. It might not be exactly what you had in mind, but there's like tons of different avenues that you can, get to this dream. It's at the end of the day, it is a tangible goal to want to be creative with for a living. You just have to be willing to work super duper hard and just to be open to looking at all the different types of possibilities. But it is just, I don't know, it's that thing if you truly do never work a day in your life when you get to work in the thing that you just love doing, when you get to just make stuff every day.
So I know you from going to UT. I didn't go to UT. You went to UT and doing your work on film there. But I haven't really talked to you since you went to LA. So like, how are you making it happen? Like what has been your journey since the last time we like saw each other, as far as like, creatively getting jobs and doing different things and working? How's that been for you?
It's been great. It's been a mixed bag. I'm trying to figure out like how far back to start, because I was at a point, I think the last time I saw you probably would have been 2015, and I had like just graduated film school. I was having trouble like making money. It was kind of cold water to the face thing of just like, oh, it's really hard to make a living doing the kind of thing I want to do. And I just at a certain point, I usually don't say this part, but it was generally like I had been offered to work full time at Rooster Teeth, and I kind of had this like come to Jesus moment of just like, I just can't see myself working there full time. I think I have to try giving LA a shot and see if I can work there. Which was at the time was a really hard decision to make, because I was with this girl that I knew I wanted to marry, and I was scared she was going to break up with me if I moved. But I ended up coming out to LA, and there were about like 2-3 months of just like nothing happening. Like I was out here. I would literally I would wake up, I would try to go to like 3 to 5, just setting up like any type of meeting with people, just trying to get ingrained in the community here. And then I'd go home and like set up IKEA furniture and watch Beat. But
what do you mean set up meetings? Like, are you calling people you know and saying, let's have lunch?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It was kind of like any type of like, whether it's, and again, like this will eventually probably become a common theme of this podcast, but I would not have a career if it wasn't for the guys at like Ray Smith Entertainment, who I had interned for back in the day in Austin, and two of them were out there. So they were really cool about like getting lunch with me or like throwing me stuff, or I met some directors through interviewing them for Moviemaker, and then they would throw me stuff at like College Humor or Crack. And it was just like, there's a weird thing about being freelance that I've realized of just like anytime, it's just hard to take in free time where it's just like you don't really have weekends. It's like there's sometimes where you're working all the time and there's sometimes you're not working at all. So I've always kind of made it a point to myself. It's like, if I'm not working today, I need to be making something creative, or I need to be making new connections. I need to get a coffee with someone new, or I need to like do a general meeting or go like hang out with someone or like kind of water those plants of like, I haven't seen this person in a long time. Let's get drinks, or let's catch a flick, or let me try to meet up with these people to write. It's just you always have to be creating your own work, whatever you're doing. So I was doing a lot of that in LA, and it was kind of slow at first, but then it's like, you get that first job, and then the people there recommend you to something, and you do that job, and then you get recommended to something else. And I don't know, like I've been so lucky. Like I'm doing a lot of work for Netflix now. I've worked for like David Zucker, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. I've gotten to work on all these amazing things out here so far. But more importantly, I've been able to make a living doing it, and a pretty good one. And I feel very blessed. But it came from years of, working for free in Austin and being at the very, very bottom of the totem pole. Literally, do you remember? I think one of the last times I was a PA, it was in this commercial you were in, and I had to hold up like you guys were roller derby people, and like a lot of the roller derby people kept falling. So I was like just out of frame on my knees, like just holding up different roller derby people, making sure they wouldn't flip. And it's just like I started there, and you just have to kind of slowly work your way up to being the person in the skates, as it were. That was such a fun set, and I remember you being so sweet as well. That was one of my fun being a PA, it's just you're always doing something different. But that was always one of my fun PA stories of just like, it's never a dull moment. You're always doing something else.
Oh my God. Can I just tell you my story from that experience? And
please.
When I went this is a commercial where I had to be a roller derby person, and I had to be on roller skates, and I wasn't great with roller skates. And I like legitimately told Dave I was okay, and I was not okay.
Yeah.
But that's okay. They hired me anyway. So in that moment when we had to like lean on you so we didn't like fall over while we moved our legs around, that was such a funny moment. But earlier, I had never had, it was my first, I guess, and only real like moment where I realized that I was just the billboard, and that I wasn't like they dressed me in my costume, and they brought me in front of 4 people who then talked about me, not to me, about me, and discussed different ways to move the clothing around or add a thing or whatever. And I was just like, whoa, like it was just this moment.
Oh, I know. Those commercial shoots are so bonkers like that, especially for actors and actresses. And I've seen that from multiple sides of production now. And I'm always just like, it's so crazy to be in the room and they're just like as if you're a mannequin of just like, you're not even there. It's just like, I feel like the helmet could be crooked, or, what if we use like a yellow strap instead of a pink one? It's just like, it's just a crazy like makeup kind of thing. Yeah. And cast this whole other can of potatoes as well. But, Dave is always amazing at like finding the best comedic actors in Austin and putting them into those commercials. So it was a real, like, when I started casting my own movies, it was just like, who has Dave worked with? But that was such a fun experience. But it was just like, I've done so many different jobs in the film industry, but it was all like, I've just always had a thing of, I'm always going to keep working. I'm always going to keep trying to figure out I don't know. And it's kind of I'm trying to get better at this as I get older, because it's not great for relationships. It's that feeling of never being satisfied. Like even when you have like a big hit or something does really well, my first thought is always like, okay, what's the next thing? What am I doing after this? And it's a little unhealthy. I am the first to say, but it's also something that keeps you excited and keeps you like trying to make new stuff,
Well, I think I was just talking about this with my husband, actually. I think you need a healthy dose of interest to move forward and excitement for new projects. But, you have to balance that with appreciation of the experiences that you've already had. And also just enjoying the moment while you're in it as much as you can. But that's it's like all parts of life. It's a bunch of insane things you got to juggle. It's like I have to be happy right now, but also wanting to move forward, and also so there's just there's no way to stay focused on one thing. You have to constantly be moving in that way. So I don't think it's unhealthy for you to want to move forward, as long as one thing that I have recently heard from older actors in other interviews that I've both had and heard is the idea that at the end of the day, your life experience is the time you spent with the other people making the stuff, not how it comes out or what people thought of it. The time of your life is literally standing there holding the camera, or letting somebody lean on your shoulder so they can move their skates around. These.
So, honestly, things. That's the whole litmus test of if you want to do. I meet a ton of kids that ask for advice or stuff, and I'm always just if you're doing this to make $1 bajillion or to be famous or any of those kind of things, you're wasting your time. There are easier ways to do those things, and I knew I wanted to do it when I was just making stuff, and I was there is some joy of just appreciating if something does well or if someone likes something that you did. But it's for me, I still just love putting the puzzle together. I love the actual getting into the thick of it, figuring out why something's not working and making it work. I love being on. I love just putting that together. And I think if you are hungry and you enjoy just that process of making things, you're set. You're going to figure out a way to be successful in this industry. I had people time and again tell me that in my early 20s, and I never believed it until I was actually doing it. But you have to also find that work-life balance, and that's kind of what's taken me the entirety of my 20s to kind of figure out of my I don't know, Laura and I have had a lot of things of just your work's more important to you than me, and it's no, but and I'm trying to get to a place of no, that's not true. You're equally important, if not you're more important to me than anything. But it's hard to have that balance when you have this addiction to creating things and figuring out what the next thing's going to be. Not even from a paycheck perspective, just from I just need to always be making stuff and figuring out new ways to do things. But I think I'm slowly getting better at that balance. I hope I am, because I want to be a good partner and I want to be a good friend to people. But it's always hard to keep that balance, especially when all of your friends and relationships are tied to, we all make things for a living. We're all trying to help each other out. But there has to be times where someone wants to hang out with me and it's not because they want something. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe, hopefully. I hope so.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know what LA is like. To be honest, my preconceived notions of it is that no, they won't. But I don't want to,
even in Austin, even in Austin, I kind of felt that way. It was just it's on a different scale a bit. But I don't know. It's just something I've been trying to get better at, of just appreciating hanging out with friends and not having it advance my career in any way, shape, or form. And just trying to get better at that.
You have friends. I find that I mostly just have acquaintances. People that I do projects with. I work on projects and we're besties during the time, and then I feel warmly about you, and then we go off and do other projects. But that's kind of been my whole life.
It's summer camp,
Everything is summer camp. Way to put it.
I've always say it's it's the first and last day of school, and it's there's people that keep coming back, but it's you never know. But I don't know. I'm trying to get to that point where the acquaintances, you're describing, become friends, or at least I have enough of them to have a life that is outside of, what I do for a living. And I'm still not great at that balance, but I'm slowly trying to get better. Because again, I want to be a better partner and a better friend and a better person to people. But it's tough when you just are obsessed with just getting to make things, and it's a tough balance. But again, you have to, like you said, you have to find that time. You have to be able to find that off switch and just making appreciating the moment. And that's something I'm still trying to get better at.
Well, I think it takes a long time. I mean, I'm 41 this year, and I'm still having ups and downs, trying to figure out. And I think we all do. I think we go through cycles, and that we're, we have to give ourselves a break. Sometimes things are going great and everything's going awesome, and you should enjoy those times, because there's going to be a lull at some point, and you don't want to bang your head against the wall with the lull. You got to be like, this is cool. What can I do with this lull? How can I learn from the world? Like, when I had the baby,
brilliant positive way to look at it. Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I think that it's self-sabotage if you don't. That, like,
right.
Because at the end of the day, like, real depression aside, if you can make yourself miserable by deciding that you don't like something about your life, right? And you can just keep like going back to it and over. Oh, this is not good. Oh, this is not good. And if you decide that whatever part of your career isn't going the way you think you, quote, deserve, then you can get real negative about stuff, and then you can separate yourself from being able to appreciate just the fact that you get to do it. Like, I've worked with people even, where when every project I do, no matter what person I am in the project, whether I'm, acting or directing or, assisting or whatever, I want to be there, and I want to be helpful, and I want to enjoy the experience no matter what's going on. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who just get down, and they decide, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this job. I should be doing a different job. Or like, I'm better at this. Why did that person get the job? And it's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah. You can't look at things like that, because you also have to be like, you got to appreciate the moment. You have to appreciate where you're at. Like, there is something really fun about like starting in those places and like yearning for those type of things. And then like, I don't know, I found that most of the most successful people I've met out here kind of wish they were still like broke and hungry and just had that fire to make stuff, and there's something really special about that. Even if you're not doing exactly the job you want to, you have to look at it as like a learning experience, or just like, okay, like by doing this job on this, I'm going to get better at this. And that'll lead into when I do this for myself. You always have to be looking at it from a positive perspective of like, how can I grow from this? Like, even I once interviewed Sean Baker, this really talented filmmaker, did like Tangerine and Florida Project and all these like brilliant indie movies. Ooh. And he was like, yeah, when he got started, he would like shoot these and cut these wedding videos, and he would always try to find like a way of like, okay, I need to learn how to do this type of thing, or like even like for the money jobs you do for nothing. Because I've worked with some real sourpusses out here, and it's just like, even when you're working on kind of a dumb gig, it's like, you got to find a way to look at it of like, okay, I'm going to teach myself this skill by working on this, or, oh, I'm going to get this experience, or, oh, I'm going to get to work with this person. Like, you have to like look at it from that positive perspective, of just like, what, I may not gain exactly what I'm trying to gain in my career right now, but I'm going to gain something from doing this. It all is going to go.
I feel that way about everything in life.
Yeah.
When you're having a hard time, like, okay, what am I supposed to be learning right now? What part of me is being worked on? Like, some part is being eroded. Why? And what's going on? Like, whatever it might be that you're dealing with and how it affects you, how can you like make this a good thing? I was even talking about that with jobs too, with people with random jobs. Like, I had a friend of mine who was like, I have to get a day job. I haven't had one in a little bit. I've been doing, teaching improv and doing stuff, but now I have to get another job, and I'm upset about it. And I said, don't be upset. We all have to do it. At some point, you got to do jobs for the money. So the way that you got to look at your job search is find something that you are, that you want to learn, or find a place that is similar-ish to the job you really want, and try to learn from that. Like, if you want to be a director in a film, then being a manager at a hotel, pretty similar in the way that you have to manage different groups and have different things happen. If you want to learn a skill, like, go ahead for that. Like, try to lean into something. If you're like, oh man, I have the hardest time with I don't know, talking to strangers, but I'm going to have to go on all these auditions. How am I going to do it? Get a job where you have to talk to strangers all day. Like,
oh yeah, that's what happened to my fiance. Yeah, well, I was just saying, like, my fiance, she's not an actress or anything, but when we met, she was super shy, and then out of college, she got a job at Big Top Candy Shop in Austin, and that was kind of game-changing for her because it just kind of forced her to come out of her shell and make friends with people she worked with, but also to, like, have to talk to people and strangers every day. And it's like, you know, even if you're just working, like, at a candy shop, you can be learning these, like, life skills that can really, you know, teach you new things. And it's, like, made her better at, like, her other careers that she's done since then. And it's, you know, made her a more, like, open person to, like, finding friends. And it's, like, but sometimes it's hard to see those things in the moment as well, you know? So it's,
yeah, but even if it's a business thing, like, you know, why should I take this PA job? Okay, cool. Well, do you know everything about the way that this kind of production works? If you don't, being a PA is going to be a great opportunity because you're probably going to find out all the different things. You'll only get to look at them and probably not be able to touch them, but you'll be able to look and be like, oh, that's what that guy does. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Or like, this guy's just standing here. What's he doing? And then you can be like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I have to watch them while they're doing their lines. Like things like that. Like, I don't know everyone that's involved in every film. I have been in many scenarios where there are people all around me. I don't know what they're doing. You know, I'd love to know.
Honestly, I've been in that scenario where I'm like, I don't know what these guys do on set, but I guess they do something.
Yeah. You know,
that's so true. Yeah. And it's important to have that experience.
You just like it. You need to know, because if you're going to eventually be the boss, you need to know what bosses are like and what techniques of doing it are about. Like even the littlest thing. I mean, it doesn't all have to be about film and theater. Honestly, I had a friend who wanted to start a yoga studio, but she didn't know how to do it. She'd never worked in a yoga studio. She had only done individual things on her own. I was like, well, then go work at a yoga studio. And she's like, well, they're not going to hire me because I don't have the right number of hours. I go, don't be a yoga instructor. Be like the receptionist. And then you get to watch how everything works. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely. That's why, that's why my internship at Ray Smith was just like invaluable at that time. Was like, I would have killed to be like in the writer's room at Humority, but it was just like, no, you're starting from the bottom. You're going to earn their respect. You're going to keep working and eventually you'll get there. And that's, again, you get lucky if you find mentors like that want to keep like raising you up through the ranks. But it's like, you have to be willing to start at a job that you think you might be overqualified for, you know, and you have to have that kind of attitude of just like, I'm going to keep working really hard and, you know, figuring out how everything works. And that's a great excuse / reason to do it, you know?
So where are you working right now? You said you're doing work for Netflix. How does that work? Are you working like individual small jobs, or do you have one job that is sending you to different places?
Kind of a little bit of both. I've mostly been freelance. For example, let me think. Last week is a really good example because I was wrapping up finishing. I mostly edit for a living, and I make my money living as a film editor. So I wrapped up a series for PUBG Mobile while I was working on this. I'll talk about it. I was working on this thing for the podcast Pod Save America for their big show at the Greek Theater. And in addition to that, I got a call from this guy directing like a Weird Al Jonah Ray video, and I was working on that. And then I had a meeting
right
at
up
Netflix,
your alley.
Because of oh dude, I cannot wait for people to watch this video. It's bonkers. It comes out Friday, so I think I can talk about it. It's Jonah Ray did this EP of like punk rock Weird Al covers, and we did a video where when does this podcast come out?
This podcast will come out on September 9th.
Perfect. Okay, so it'll already be out. We did this video where we superimposed Jonah into different moments from UHF, this Weird Al movie.
Yep.
And it's so sick, dude. I had the time of my life on set. It was amazing. But it's like you do like stuff for money, so you can do stuff like that for free. But then I also had a good meeting at Netflix because I cut this show for Cannes France, and now I'm editing some stuff there and hopefully going to edit on bigger stuff. So the thing of freelance is like you're always working on a million different things. Like in addition to those, I didn't even talk about like the 3 short film hard drives I have on my desk right now. It's like you always have to be like making stuff and working on stuff. But that was definitely the coolest one. I haven't even told Dave about that. I cannot wait for him to see it. Like I think he's going to really dig it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So
yeah, but you know, you always have to be juggling stuff.
No, go ahead. What did you say?
Sorry, go
You
ahead.
always have to be what?
You just always have to be juggling on stuff. But I cut you off. What did you say?
Oh, I was just going to ask about how you were making the connections. You mentioned earlier, you're having lunches, you're chatting with people. One person says you should meet this person. You go out, you meet a different person. Are you just going around? Because here's the thing. From my friends who are younger, I guess around your age, but like you being in a relationship changes the game a little bit, because most of the people that I talk to, they go out and they like date, and dating provides a level of connections in the same way that you're talking about. Whereas you are just going out and making business, having business conversations. And not that I think combining the thing is great. I don't think you should be like dating people you're working with, of course. But at the same time, like, I understand how the social can help get you into business. Like, how was it for you, since you're essentially like, let's talk business. How you doing? Let's talk business, from person to person.
It's a little bit. Well, first, you give me a little too much credit. It's usually a little more relaxed, of just like talking about our lives. Oh, you're into scuba diving. Oh, you own a cat. And then like kind of talking about like what we do for a living and things coming up naturally. The big thing has been there's a lot of great groups out here. Like there's a really good, if anyone is listening and is in post-production in Los Angeles, I highly recommend the Blue Collar Post Collective. They do a bunch of these like workshops and meetings and hangouts. And a lot of them are really chill. And the first thing about it is like, you network and you meet people that you can work with or hopefully get jobs from. But the bigger thing is you find like friends. And that was something I kind of took for granted at first. But now it's like my fiance and I have people that we have board game nights with, and it's like we don't talk about work. So it's like you find stuff like that. But for me, honestly, the big thing that has really helped me network for the last 8 years is like what you're doing now. Like I wrote for Moviemaker Magazine, so I would interview these people I was a big fan of, and then just try to kind of get in their circle or get to talk to them more. Like Bradley Jackson was one of the big ones where like I saw this short that he made called The Man Who Never Cried that I just love. And I just was like, hey man, can I just buy you coffee, pick your brain for 40 minutes? You get an article in a magazine about it, and I get to learn more about how I can do what you do. And most people say, like most people want to like help people come up. Most people are selfish and they want to talk about themselves. But then a lot of people are really nice and you hang out after as well. So I've met a ton of people through that. And when I moved out here, I interviewed a couple people for a movie maker that was like, oh, you want to edit for College Humor? I know this person. I'll put you in touch there. Oh, like I'm doing this thing for Craft and my editor fell through. Do you want to do it? And then like you go from like getting a job every month to like having to turn down a ton of stuff. And I've just been really lucky kind of getting to that point. But I don't know, like despite what most people probably think, I'm actually super shy and nervous and neurotic with a lot of anxieties of various colors and creeds. And it takes a lot for me to kind of get out of my comfort zone and meet people. But if you don't, you're never going to make stuff. So it's one of those things. And I was really inspired by Laura doing that when she was working at Big Top. So it's kind of like I try to still do it like every like once or twice a week. I'll meet a person for like drinks or for coffee or on my lunch break or something and just chat. Even if, I'm giving them advice or they're giving me advice, you never know where something is going to go. Even if I never get like a work thing from them and we just end up being buddies and, seeing movies in theaters together because there's value to that as well. So I don't know. It's a bit of a mix, but it's just, you always have to be like trying to meet people because that's where you're going to find work if you're going to be freelance,
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I didn't want to jump in and say, he is awkward and shy, but you are quite shy. And all this talk, I mean, I know you as being pretty shy, and I think that it's great. It sounds so, it makes me nervous, the amount of like intensity, and I am not shy. So like you're
right.
Essentially, I think you're very cool, and that sounds great. Like the idea of you putting the effort in to meet new people, whether it is work related or social related, like that's admirable. Keep doing that.
But again, it's a thing of perspective because you've done improv for so long, and I'm always like so jealous of people like y'all and actors who can like be on camera, be in front of a bunch of people and do this stuff, and it's like no big deal. And like I've only done improv like a couple times and stand-up and stuff like a couple times in my life, but I've never done it without being just like nauseatingly nervous or like incredibly anxious. And it's just I never know like how it's a different skill set, but you have to like put it towards something else. Like even like just finding other ways to do it and putting yourself out there. And it's scary and it's really hard. And if you're like, oh, I can't be in the entertainment business because I'm scared of that thing, there's tons of things. I've had my work viewed by millions and millions of people, and I never had to step in front of a camera. There's ways you can work in the entertainment industry without being the spotlight, and I kind of like that. But I'm always really jealous of people like y'all who can just like be in front of a ton of people and do stuff, and it's like it just seems like a superpower,
It's funny how, we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. Like, it's hard to even see our own strengths. You say that, and I'm like, yeah, I literally never think of that as a strength. It's just,
I think that's so cool.
Just such a, just the idea that I could talk to people is like, that's the only time I feel comfortable talking to people is when there's a bunch of them in front of me at once. Like one-on-one,
so funny,
I'm always like, I ruined that. But like if there's 100 people in front of me, I'm great. It's good. It's perfect.
That's so, but I don't know. It's that there's that classic like Seinfeld bit of just like some people are like more people. I forget. I'm gonna butcher the joke, but it's something about like more people would rather are more afraid of public speaking than death, and that's and it's like punchline is like more people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. And I just think like that's very much how I am, and I think that's how a lot of people are. But it's like there's some people who are like the complete inverse, which I think I find so fascinating as well.
Man, one thing that I like doing, and it makes me think of this because we're sort of complimenting each other, we're having a little compliment off, is
little compliment fest,
is that like whenever I can tell that a person is not having a great time, like they're doing their thing, but things aren't awesome for them. And they haven't told me directly. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't walk up to me and go like, I've had a terrible day, but I can just look at them and tell. I like to give them a compliment. Just a random one.
Great. I think you do that more.
Just out of nowhere, just about whatever. Not something like, if I don't know them at all, I usually keep it, to like whatever they're wearing. Like it's like, hey, nice shorts, or like, cool hat or whatever. But if I know them, I'll just like sneak in with a like, oh man, I haven't found a chance to tell you this, but I really wanted to tell you that you're really great at blankety blank. And then that way, like, it throws them off it like disturbs the voice in their head that's telling them that they're crap. We all have the voice in our head that says not to do it, but sometimes you have to distract that voice. When I teach improv, I tell them to listen to it, and then I go, forget it. Who cares? It's fine if you hear it, but don't listen to what they're saying.
I can't even imagine how many days you've just completely made just by doing that. Because that's such a sweet, small little gesture that just like means mountain. Like that's happened to me loads of times where someone's like, I'll just be like, I heard video or something, or I love video, and it's been a minute. And then they'll just be like, oh, your hair looks really nice. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that's so nice and so out of nowhere. And it's just like, it really does, like, no matter how shitty of a day you've had, it's just like, it's hard to be like, to keep a bad mood when it's just like, oh yeah, like I do have some sort of like, people are still being nice, and it's just like that's such a sweet thing that you do. I'm gonna make that a habit. I'm gonna try to get out of my shell and do that.
It can be hard. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I don't get great reactions, but I'm
sure some people are just like, "Who the hell are you?" Like,
or like,
but like for every one person,
I don't need your opinions, and it's like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It depends on how bad a day they're really having. If they're really deep in it, they're not listening to me.
But you don't really risk anything just being like, hey, your shoes are really cool. It's just like, you never know like how that's going to brighten someone's day. It's such a sweet, and especially if it's people that you know and love in your life, that you can just be like, hey, I just want to say that you've added a lot of value to my life and I appreciate it. Like there's people in my life I wish I said that to more often, or said that to when I had a chance to say it. And it's a great, I'm gonna put a fork forward and try to start doing that in my life. That's really nice.
I like to say, the phrase, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I like to think the inverse is true. If you have something nice to say it.
Oh my God, you got to put that on a bumper sticker, my dude. I love that. That's awesome. And that worked way easier for Andy Young in 2019 because I have a lot of not nice things to say about certain people. But
yeah.
That's
Well,
great. That's
I don't
such a
know
great
that the world exists such that you don't say not nice things anymore. I try not to.
I know it's
yeah.
29. The last couple of years have made me a very different Andy Young, but I like to think for the better. I've tried to get more open and aware of things that are going on, as I think a lot of people did after that happened. But it's like
sure,
just,
a lot of openness, a lot of awareness, and yet I keep my mouth shut most of the time. like I'm not going to talk about my opinions. It's okay.
Yeah.
You have your opinions. Great. Good luck to you. Hope that works out.
I think I'd have more Facebook friends if I kept that mantra, because I've definitely there's a couple of people that aren't coming to the wedding.
Well, I'm way older too than you are, so like I've certainly put my foot in my mouth and ruined my life a number of times in my past, and now I just happen to have I just happen to have my own. I didn't join Facebook until I was 30. I mean,
sure.
How much damage could I really put up there? Very little.
Fair enough, man.
All of my terrible times were previous to that, so it was okay.
That's exactly. No record, and that's probably for the better. But I don't know. I'm trying to get better at going back to goofy, fun Andy on Facebook, and not the world is on fire. Everybody should be doing things Andy on Facebook, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, what I like to do with that kind of stuff is I like to put out if. I don't like to put out my opinion, because my opinion doesn't matter at all. I mean, in the larger scheme of things. But if I can do some research and find out where action can happen, you know what I mean? It's I don't like that this happens, but me just writing, I don't like that this happens, doesn't help anyone. So instead, I'm going to do some research to find out who the reputable places to give money to are, or who you can call, or what the right things to do. Because I think a lot of times people are just putting out things that are like, oh, this is how you solve the problem by talking about it. I'm like, but it doesn't. It doesn't. We can talk.
Yeah, it's like a tweet isn't an action. You need to be. Exactly. You still need to be putting money on the table. You got to be figuring out things you can get involved with. Laura's always really good about finding the right people to donate to, or the right places to volunteer at. And it's that is intensely more valuable than, but I don't know. It's every once in a while you got to just take the valve off a little bit and blow off steam. But that's at least where I'm at with that stuff. But I've also found a way recently of just doing more work with my skills and just editing videos for different causes and campaigns and things that I believe in, and it's you hope that gets other people's awareness involved, and just trying to figure out the way to make a world a slightly better place, even if it's by doing the dumb thing I do for a living.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's to loop it back into living a life in the arts. It's do you want to just talk about how you want to be an actor? Do you want to just talk about how you want to be a film editor? Or are you going to do something? And sometimes the moves that you're making feel like nothing. You're like, well, I just gave money to the Red Cross. What does that do? Well, I just took this workshop from some guy. What does that do? It matters. The little bit matters. The tiny steps towards stuff matter. And if a bunch of people are doing it, in the life in the arts, if there are 20 people taking an improv class, then all 20 of those people are now a community that are together on this journey. And if 20 people give money to the Red Cross and talk to each other on social media and say, I did too, I gave blood, I did this, and that helps them to do it again and to keep working.
Yeah.
Both of these things are the same in my mind. It's all about just putting effort.
It snowballs from there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just I forget, I think it was Brian McElhaney on Intramural that told me, it was the easiest thing in the world to do is nothing. And that quote has always just stuck with me, of just it's so easy to throw throw things from the bleachers and make fun of things. It's so easy to just mock things. It's the hardest thing in the world to to get on stage, to pick up a pen, to do something. And put yourself out there. It's so tough. And it's just, but it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's also the most boring thing in the world. And you're not going to have a very interesting life if your answer to every situation was just, I didn't do anything. And I think that in both the cases of making things and it being politically active in this time right now, this is not the best time in the world to be doing nothing. It's like, you should always be making things. You should always be creating things. And I think it's important to donate the things you're passionate about and to get involved in, causes that you really like,
Art is also very important now, too. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have any creative drive. And I was like, take whatever fury you have and put it into something, because these kinds of times are exactly what you need for great art. You need to be able to, what do you want the world, the number one, as I've gotten older and now that I have the baby, I have to pick and choose my projects a little bit more carefully. I can't just do 100 of them. I do 5 in a year, Yeah. So I got to make sure that the people I'm working with and the projects I'm working on are like worth my time, and also like putting out a message that like I want put out in the world. Right. And so I'm like, if you don't think that anyone's writing or creating a thing that you think needs to be said, do it, make it. Put that out there. It's important. I am so happy when I see things. Can I just tell you that the new deluge of there being more stories of different people from different backgrounds is great, in my opinion, because I don't know anything about that. And then I watch a movie and I'm like, that's a thing? And people say, yeah, that's a thing. And I'm like, that's great. Like, I didn't know. Yeah. This is
and it's becoming your favorite movie. There's so many.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I didn't, I was unaware that this was a story that was out there in the world to be told. This is amazing. And it will affect me in the way it'll affect me. And then whatever it was intended, it will affect in a different way. There was this little tiny documentary that I watched on HBO. And to be honest, I only watched a snippet of it because the baby's very distracting. But I was, it's about these quinceañeras, okay? And it's these couple of girls, and you follow each one of them in their little journey. And one of the quinceañeras is a trans girl and her mother giving this trans girl a quinceañera. And so because the little girl is trans, she got all these other older trans women who when they were younger didn't get to experience their own quinceañera, and invited them in to have it with her. Right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is amazing for so many reasons. Yeah. Number one, this woman who is the mother of this child is the sweetest, most wonderful person to just be so open to the journey of their child that they embrace it and let it be and help her be who she really is. And then also is clearly a great enough parents to have inspired their daughter to want to help other people. Like, I'm crying watching this thing, being like,
that's
these
beautiful,
people
man.
and their kindness. It's so wonderful. Have I ever had a quinceañera? No. Do I know that many people who are trans? No. But I love the fact that there are stories out there of people of lives that I don't know, that I can see, that I can experience. And when people are like, oh, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to do, I'll be like, tell me what your life is like, because my life is different than yours. And I want to know what your life was.
Tell me the story you think is unpitchable. Tell me the thing that you think oh, this could never be a movie because there aren't any other movies like it. And it's like, well, that's the idea you should be making. That's the thing that people want to see. That's the thing people will want to hunt out. And that's the kind of thing that I just am so drawn to, is finding those types of things to get to work on as much as I can throughout a year, and just to help add representation to these things. It's just, that's such a beautiful gift to be able to do that, and to be able to showcase a story like that.
Yeah, and the documentary, the whole thing of it, because of course I can't watch any movie without thinking about the people who are making it.
Of course.
So the whole experience, I'm like, these people with their cameras that get to be part of this with her, and they get to help her tell this story, just the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing.
They worked so hard and gave up all this time and to make this happen, and it's just it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's those are the people you want to work with, the people that are that passionate about something, just to be able to tell that type of story. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it just really wonderful. Like when you are not sure what to say, what do you want to see? And then put that out in the world, right? People like, for instance, right now in our interview here, the end result of our chat is probably going to be like a little over an hour, right? And a lot of times people will say, oh, podcasts, they shouldn't be that long. You really should shorten it up. I say no. You know why? Because when I listen to podcasts, I listen to interviews that are 2 hours plus because that's what I want to hear. So that's what I make. I make what I want.
Well, you never know who's listening. Yeah. You want to be as honest as possible. You want, like, there are people like I had that, like, when I was coming up, like, I would like search out interviews for directors and whatever, and I wouldn't want to watch like the little 5-minute red carpet things. I'd want to hear like the 2-3 hour long, real deep dives into like every aspect of their process. Why did they do this? How did they come up? Like, what can I take into my own life in order to do that? And like, if I can even have a fraction of that type of help with anyone of just like getting a new idea of how to advance their career or like a new idea of like something they can do, it's just like that's, is it for everybody? And of course not. But if it reaches that like handful of people to be able to like inspire them to like get off their butts and make stuff, or to come to LA, or to, try to hand it like different things. It's like that's what the purpose is. And that's all that it should provide. It shouldn't have to fit into any of these other boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. I really feel like when, also there's a pause button available at any time. If you got something else to do,
can fast forward.
Go ahead and throw a pause, come back to it. Sometimes I listen to 3-hour interviews in 20-minute increments because that's the only time I get with the baby. I'm like, sweet, he's taking a nap. And I listen, and then I'm like, is that a baby crying? Dang it. So, No,
I'm just saying I'll do it in traffic. I'll do it like if I'm walking around the neighborhood. If I have like breaks between work, I'll put one on in the shower. It's just like, podcasts aren't movies. They're not meant to be ingested in like a one setting. You're supposed to like come back to them, whenever it's convenient,
Yeah. So do that. And the other part, half of what I meant when I was bringing it up was the idea that it's like, I'm making what I like. So I can try to fit into the box, like you were saying, that somebody else is trying to say, this is the way to do it. Or I can make what I like. I'm trying to figure out what it is I'm watching, what movies I want to see, and then like, what about it do I like? And then try to put that in my own work.
Well, and it's also like the premise of your podcast is the whole thing of just like, how do people like, make creative, who get to live creatively? How do they get to do these things? And it's like, when I was coming up, again, like I would want to listen to like the full versions of these things because I just want to know. And like, I think that's just a great service to provide because I know like I had so much time in my youth when I was just like, all I want to do is work in comedy. All I want to do is make movies. I don't know anyone in this industry. I've never met or shook hands with a famous person. I just don't think it's going to happen. And it's just like, you wish you could like reach people and just be like, man, if you're passionate about something, if you work hard and if you're willing to like do like the lowest of jobs and work your way up from there, like you can go on to do the kind of thing you want and then some. You just have to have that work ethic and you have to have that drive, but it is a tangible goal. Like you just watch the end of movies credits and there's hundreds and hundreds of names, and it's like that always gives me hope. And it's nice to be able to see you have like so many like podcast guests of like, oh, I was able to have a creative career doing this, or I was able to take these roads and be able to do that. And it's just like that provides a service I would hope to people of just like, I just want to make things and I don't know how. And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And that's something I always hope to give back. So I think that's amazing that you do that for an entirety of a podcast.
Well, I hope that's what I'm providing. That's what I'm hoping for sure.
That's my, from the couple episodes I've listened to, and that's definitely my vibe of it. But it's also just somebody who wouldn't want to listen to Amy Jordan talk for an hour. I miss you so much. It's just so lovely to get to catch up and hear how you're doing, dude.
Oh, that's so nice. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad to talk to you. Yeah, I enjoy that part of this is, catching up with old friends as well as meeting new people to find out, turns out everywhere all over the world, people are just trying to make fun stuff. And
and I always just had so much fun working with you in Austin. Anytime you were an actress on anything I worked on, you were just always so giving and just the best and just such a great performer. So it's just so lovely to get to chat with you again.
Oh, tell me more about how great I am. I mean, anyway.
Well, I just. I mean, I was gonna remember on Heath and Amy was in a film I directed for my thesis film in college called Heath and Heath, which weirdly I still get stuff from today. That's again just makes the kind of stuff you want to make. But there was a really weird scene at the end of the movie, and I still all the time. Like it was just such a solid showcase of what I do that like that was kind of the only thing on my website for a long time, but it kind of attracted the right people of like, I don't know. Like, I remember there was one where, like, I said in an interview somewhere where I was like, I just wanted to make, like, a David Zucker version of the Muppets. And somehow that got back to, like, David Zucker's production company, and they saw Keith and Heath, and it was like, we should have him come edit for it. It's just you never know where something's going to go.
Oh, my God!
It's so rad, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you watch that. There's things I would change about that movie, but I'm still so proud of it, especially the ending is so, like, blazing saddles crazy. And Amy is such a good part of it, because I had you and Adam Krabka do all this like super weird stuff, and you guys never had like a moment of hesitation. You were just like you're like just game and champs and like ready to do it, and it was just like I don't know. It's just so amazing to get to work with performers like that, because I just got so lucky on that film to work with all of my favorite improvisers and comedians and actors in Austin, and it was just such a treat to finally get to like. I remember we worked together on a commercial right before, and I was just like, "You're on my set next, dude. It's gonna be a blast." And that was just so much fun, man.
Yeah, it is a wild one. I hope like for years to come, people are watching that and giving you jobs. Like that's amazing.
Oh my gosh. You and me both. That's still like anytime I've directed out here, I've only done like kind of small stuff, but my favorite stuff is still involved puppets and like I don't know. I meet a lot of people that seem kind of disappointed when they're like, "Oh, you haven't been directing as much. You're not directing." It's like, no, but like one, I'm making a living doing this like creative work and working with a lot of directors, and I get to pay for my rent and my dates with my fiance with comedy money, which is really rad. But it also makes you a better director, and it's like I have stories I still want to tell. I think I had to live a little bit. I had to get that work-life balance a little more in check than I had it when I was in film school. And now I've got like a bunch of scripts on my computer, but it's still just like, trying to do a little bit of executive producing and trying to like find those stories that you want to help people tell. And you got to step away every once and again to find those chops. But I am still so proud of Keith and Heath, and I'm excited. Whatever I direct next will be equally, if not more so, silly and irreverent and weird. For sure. That's the NDM guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always my guarantee to actors. Like, I'll give you the weirdest thing you have on your reel, and not everyone can say
that. Yep. I do like that, though. That's pretty quality. You know what I feel like? Yeah. You should be seeking out everyone else who you think wants to do that. Like, you're like, who are the weirdos? And then just try to go to them, see if you can't send Keith and Heath to them, to their office. I mean, you got pretty up high in the ladder there just with an offhand comment. Yeah. Who knows if you're like, sending out, hey, check this out to, I'm trying to think of anyone that's crazy.
I'm still kind of getting there with like I've been lucky to accumulate some like famous like directors that I'm a huge fan of on Twitter that now follow me. And it's definitely like I'm trying to like pick those moments of when do I DM to just be like, hey, would you like to do this? Or hey, when can we? Would love to just meet up and work together on this, or just trying to even just like, can I just shadow you and watch how you work? But it's that's always a tricky dance, and it's tough to do it genuinely. But like I know I can say all this stuff about networking, and it is important. But I always try my best to just be like a genuine Austin, Texas guy that's just like fun and like hanging out and listening, and not just being like a LA phony that only wants to hear themselves talk. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to find more like friendships out here that are that aren't reliant on me giving them opportunities or them giving me opportunities. And I think it's just I'm still getting used to that balance, but I'm hopefully getting better.
All right, one last question, and then we'll wrap up the old interview.
Please.
What do you have? What of the projects that you're working on or that's in your head? Like, what is exciting you right now? What is the thing? And if we already talked about it, we can talk about something else. But like, is there some kernel of an idea that's sort of been rolling around in your head for a little while that you'd be open to sharing? Like, what's getting you going?
There's one that I've been writing. Yeah, there's one. Well, I'm really excited for the Weird Al Jonah Ray music video to come out because I think it's just so fun and rad. And I'm hoping I got to work with this director I really like. Jonah was amazing, and I'm hoping to get to work on more things like that in the near future. I've been writing this script for a long time. It's basically about like, it's about like this Chuck E. Cheese style restaurant that has these like, those animatronic bands, but they're sentient beings, like they're anthropomorphic. Like when the curtain closes, they come to life and they have their own day jobs and they do other things, but they're just doing this as an ends meet. It's like one of them had like a dream of being like a famous guitar player, and now he plays at this, kid's place a couple times a day. But the place is closing down, and they're getting rid of anthropomorphic, of like those types of animatronic animals. So now he has to find another line of work, and it's kind of a story of coming to terms with like, do I keep pursuing this, or what is the next step in my life? But it's just big giant puppets, and it's very Keith and Heath in a lot of ways, but then a little more dramatic in others. But I've got like the script for it. I've met a puppet maker who I'm a big fan of, who likes Keith and Heath, that wants to help me build the robot. It's just kind of figuring out getting funding and doing a test, because I want to kind of swing for a bigger actor for it. But that's kind of been the big like weird idea that I've been excited about for a while. But I also just like moved into a house with a bunch of old friends from film school, and one's an actor, one's a composer, one works at the NFL Network, but we're all writers. So it's been exciting getting to like start to write again, and like being kind of the in-house director again, and getting to direct for other people. So I don't know, there's like a lot of different things, but for now I've just been really lucky to work on a lot of weird and interesting shorts and projects as an editor, and I'm hoping to get my first feature as an editor too. So I don't know, I'm in an interesting spot where it's just like a lot of things are going well, but I wrapped this Netflix thing I'm on in September 9th actually, like when this is out, and it's after that it's just we'll see what happens, and I'm kind of excited about that too. I like having a slate of nothing, because it's exciting to get to fill it all over again.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be really great. I was thinking about how you're editing, and, really at the end of the day, the editor is the final storyteller that puts their hands on the whole thing. So, the director can do whatever they want during the course of the time when they're filming it. But if you're the editor, you're the one who decides sort of, probably doesn't make every decision, but you certainly are creating.
No, but you make a lot of those initial ones.
Yeah.
And it's a collaboration with the director, absolutely. And it's like, it makes you a better filmmaker to work with. Like, I've worked with a lot of brilliant directors, but I've also worked with really shitty ones. So it's like, and I learned things from both. I learned like what to and not to do on set. It makes you more conservative as a director, knowing like, okay, I can get this and this many setups. I don't need to do this many takes. And I think it just makes you, like you say, it makes you a better storyteller, because you're kind of the last say in the writing, and you just like, you figure out how that screen grammar works. And I don't know, it's my favorite. It's always been my favorite part of the process, and it's been so fun to do it for money when like I have a lot of friends out here, and it's nothing against them, where they're just like, either they're like doing retail stuff, or they're like working super low jobs in offices, or whatever it is to pay the bills. And I feel lucky that I get to pay my bills being creative and getting to work on making things that people will see and hopefully like, and that leading to other opportunities. So I've been very blessed, but it came from years and years and years of working for free, and as the metaphor goes, holding roller derby skaters up before I could get to that place. So it's, you just got to keep working and just keep making stuff,
As the old story goes, holding up the roller skates.
This is a tried and true metaphor.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Thank you, Andy, for being on the podcast and talking to me and sharing
you so much
your
for
story.
Having me.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thanks for listening to Yes But Why Podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com, or check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.